Hello everyone, welcome to the AdCup Show. So why can't every country industrialize? I mean, think about it. Factories, skyscrapers, tech hubs, buzzing economies. Why doesn't every nation just hit the industrialize button and grow? Well, it's because it's not that simple. First up, let's define industrialization. Industrialization is when a country shifts from farming and raw materials to manufacturing, tech, and urban economies. Think Britain in the 1800s with coal-powered factories or China today with its megacities and high-speed trains. Industrialized nations produce goods, innovate tech, and usually have higher standards of living. So why isn't every country doing this? Well, there are several reasons behind this, but one of the most basic reasons is resources. Industrialization needs stuff like coal, oil, metals, and energy to power factories. If you're a country like Saudi Arabia, you are sitting on oil. So energy is not a problem. But what about a landlocked nations like Chad? No power, no easy access to global trade routes, and limited natural resources. It's like trying to build a gaming PC with only half the parts. Here's a wild stat. According to World Bank, 80% of the world's poorest countries are resource-scarce or landlocked. That's not a coincidence. Without raw materials or cheap energy, building factories is crazy expensive. For example, sub-Saharan Africa has tons of minerals, think cobalt in the Congo, but getting them out requires roads, railways, and ports, which many countries don't have. It's like having a gold mine in your backyard but no shovel to dig it up. Alright, now let's say you have got some resources, but here's the next hurdle: cash. Industrialization isn't cheap. You need to build factories, train workers, and buy machines. Where's the money coming from? Wealthy countries like the US or Japan had capital from trade or colonies back in the day. Poorer nations don't have that. The UN estimates that developing countries need $4 trillion a year to meet basic development goals, including industrialization. But many of these countries are drowning in debt. In 2022, low-income nations spent $68 billion just paying interest on loans, money that could have built schools or factories. And here's the kicker: when poorer countries borrow from global banks or richer nations, they often get stuck in a trap. Loans comes with rules like cut your budget or open your market. Suddenly you are selling cheap raw materials to rich countries while they sell you expensive iPhones. Now let's talk a bit about history, because the past is like one relative who keeps showing up uninvited. A lot of countries struggling to industrialize today were colonies. Think Africa, parts of Asia, Latin America. Colonial powers didn't exactly set them up for success. They built economies to extract stuff: gold, spices, cotton, not to create factories. Take Nigeria for example. In 1960, when it gained independence, 70% of its economy was exporting raw material like palm oil to Britain. No factories, no industrial base, just a system to ship stuff out. Fast forward to today, Nigeria is still heavily reliant on oil exports. In 2023, oil made up 80% of its export revenues as per OPEC data. Breaking that cycle is tough when your economy is being wired one way for centuries. And it's not just colonies. Even non-colonized countries like Ethiopia missed the early industrial wave. They didn't have tech capital or stable governments to jump in when Europe and US were going full steam. Speaking of stability, politics is another monster. Industrialization needs a solid government to build roads, enforce laws, and keep things running. But what if your country is dealing with corruption or conflict? It's like trying to build a house during a hurricane. Here's a jaw-dropping number. Transparency International's 2024 index ranked 60% of sub-Saharan African countries in the bottom half globally. Corruption siphons off billions that could go to industrial projects. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, it's estimated that 20% of mining revenues vanishes due to corruption. That's money which can be used for building schools, roads, or power plants. And then there's a war. Countries like Yemen or South Sudan have been stuck in conflicts for years. Factories don't exactly pop up when bombs are dropping. The World Bank says conflict-affected countries lose 2 to 3% of GDP growth annually. Industrialization needs skilled workers, engineers, technicians, you name it. In 2023, UNESCO reported that 60% of kids in low-income countries can't read or do basic math by the end of primary school. How do you build a tech hub with that? Compare that to South Korea. In the 1960s, they invested heavily in education. By 1980, 90% of kids were finishing high school, and now South Korea is a tech giant. In some places, traditional lifestyles like farming are valued over factory jobs. That's not a bad thing, but it can slow down the shift to industry. It's like convincing your grandma to ditch her flip phone for a smartphone. So finally, here's the $1,000,000 question. Can every country industrialize? The answer is yes, but it's complicated. You see, the global economic system is not built for every country to industrialize. I mean, imagine if every country starts producing, then who will consume those products? More than 60% of industrial output is produced by 5 countries, and almost 50% is produced by top 2 countries, China and the US. This means that when you are doing production, then you have to do consumption also. These countries produce and the rest of the world consumes. Moreover, here's the cool part. Industrialization doesn't have to look the same everywhere. India is betting big on IT and services. Its tech sector was worth $250 billion in 2023. Ethiopia is building industrial parks for textile and manufacturing, creating 80,000 jobs in the last decade. These countries show it possible to find your own path. However, those paths would not be as effective as real hard industrialization. Not every country can industrialize at once. Planet's resources are finite. There can be only so much lithium for batteries or land for factories. Plus, global trade rules often favor rich nations. The World Trade Organization says 70% of global trade benefits developed countries. Countries like Rwanda are investing in tech and tourism, with 7% GDP growth in 2023. Others like Vietnam are becoming manufacturing hubs. Vietnam's export hit $370 billion last year. But for every success, there is a Haiti or Somalia facing massive hurdles. The good news is technology is changing the game. 3D printing, renewable energy, and AI could make industrialization cheaper and greener, but the world needs to play fair. Rich countries have to share the tech and stop hogging the profits. It's like a group project. Everyone has got to do their part, or else it falls apart. The bottom line is, industrialization isn't just about building factories. It's about resources, money, history, politics, people, and the planet. Every country could industrialize in theory, but in reality, it's complicated. World and nature isn't built equal. What do you think about all this? Drop your thoughts in comments, and if you want a deep dive on a specific country, let me know. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next global breakdown. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.